You ready, Greg?
Let's go, Jay.
You're listening to The Success Paradigm with your hosts, Jay Atkins and Greg Gray.
All right, here we are with the success paradigm, and boy, today is special. KD. So we're supposed to do this introduction formally first, Keith, and then we'll do the follow-on. So
It's not Kevin Durant.
it is not, but he can get up and he can put the ball in the hole. I've just seen that. So Keefe Duterte is the guy that we are spending time with this afternoon, one of our best friends. So let me get into that. I'm doing the unofficial thing. Focus, Greg, focus. Okay. Keefe is a husband of 16 years and a father to 3 beautiful children. In 2017, Keefe sold his mega Allstate agency. For those of you who don't know what that's like, a really big agency. It's like really big agency in Texas, sold it, and so he could spend more time with his family in West Virginia. So, of course, because of who Keefe is, in less than 3 years, he has built it to a mega agency again with 4 locations and over $11 million in premium. Keefe also is a co-founder of Agency Sales Academy, which is near and dear to our hearts, and has authored a book series titled "It's Not How You Start, It's How You Finish." Um, Keefe G. Duterte, the man, the myth, the legend. I had to say that because he always says that when he's doing an introduction. So now, Jay, you get to introduce Keefe the
Greg,
other way.
yeah, Greg, I don't like to correct you very often, except for every day, but you did the official. I'm doing the unofficial. So
Okay,
you
very
messed
good.
it up. All you had to do was read.
I know, I
So,
know. It's right there. I got it in the notes. I had it in the notes, blew it.
so Keith, I like to do the official on people that I admire. And you're one of those people that I admire. And I got fortunate enough to meet you at a big meeting one year, and you and Kevin pulled me to the side and said, "Hey, I got an idea. We should do this. What do you think?" And you took the lead as the one of the founders at ASA, and uh, got us educated, as my grandfather used to say, on how to do conferences. And then I got to know you as a human being, as a father, as a husband, and I wasn't married at the time. So what I saw you being was very foreign to me. But I will tell you, um, as a human being, you have helped me become one of the most successful human beings in my own marriage and as a father, because your priorities were always in the right place no matter what was going on in life. So, for people that might know you from the stage, that might know you in the insurance industry, that might know you in corporate America, or with Allstate, I know you on a little deeper level. We've had deeper conversations on what's important to you, and that, my friend, is success. And that's what we're here to talk about today, is um, your success and how you've had so much success. And everyone always sees the glory and
hmm
sees how great of a speaker you are, and sees how great of a human being you are, but most people don't know your story. And what I love about this podcast is some of the people that I know really well, that I thought I knew really well, ends up that I don't know them that well, and
hmm
because I don't know their story, I just met them in the middle of their glory. And so what we like to do is kind of go back, and we can go way back. I like to know, way back, what made Keefe Keefe, and I like to hear about some of your struggles. And I know some of them personally.
hmm
Had conversations, and I've heard some of the stories sometimes, but I'd like for people in here to hear some of those failures and what you did to overcome them. So you start where you're comfortable, and like I told you earlier, this is about you, and I want people to hear all that positivity that I always hear every time we have a conversation. So where's it all start with, Keith?
Well, thanks, Jay. Greg, it's good to all be together again. And
Absolutely.
thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it. Gosh, if you go back and back, I think a lot of how we see the world, our perspective is a lot how we grew up, right? And there's pros and cons to, my growing up. The great thing that my parents always gave me is they always wanted me to do well, but it was almost to a point that, you get all A's and then an A minus. Like, it's not like good job. It's like, what's up with the A minus though? Right? Like, it was this level of excellence that was always not encouraged, but expected. Right? So that was kind of ingrained in me, which helped me a lot in business, hurt me in a lot of relationships, I would say, because of my unspoken expectations of other people. But growing up, that was always like, you need to strive for more and more and more. And then when I graduated from college, I always wanted to be a financial advisor. So I double majored in finance economics, started working at Merrill Lynch, and was working just like my dad taught me, 100 hours a week. Like, you might not have the talent, son, but ain't nobody going to outwork you. And that's always kind of been my philosophy. So I put my head down, grinded. And then we had our second child while I was at Merrill Lynch. And I started to realize, like, man, I would go to work because I was in Tucson at 4:30. She would be asleep. I would get home because I had to deal with clients after that. It would be 8:30 and 9. She would be asleep. And I started to think, like, what kind of, am I ever going to really even know my daughter? Like, what's the deal? And then I had one of my clients, or customers, it was really a prospect at the time. It was funny. He called me, I forgot about this. He called me American Idol because I called him every Monday during American Idol for 6 months to try to get his account because he had $5 million, right? So that's what his nickname was for me. And then finally sold his offices, which I didn't know anything about Allstate, but he sold them. It was like an $11 million book. The brother, he was 35. He collected like $4 million and some change. And I said, all right, time out. I'm over here working to help you make an extra percent and a half, maybe 2, trying to beat the market, killing myself. Every time I talk to you, you ain't at the office. You out doing something on some trip or something, and you make a lot more than me. Like, tell me, brother, like, help me. So that's kind of how it started. He helped kind of guide me, consult me with me on my first agency. So I was 27, 2007, and man, when I first walked in the office in Texas, my ego came in probably a day or two before, and then I showed up, and I thought I was Billy Bad. I was like, let me tell you how it's gonna go. Because I had never had employees, never had staff, never run a PNC agency. But I'm like, come on now, you don't know who I am. KD's in the house. But I got a reality check day one when I handed out, my handbook, and there's a non-compete in there, and 2 of my employees walk up to me, crumple it up, and hand it to me. And I went from 4 to 6 in staff. That was pretty quick to lose like a third of my agency, but whatever. We don't need them, guys. We got this. Until I found out that they opened an independent 2 blocks down and rolled $200,000 in premium in the first month. Ouch. Welcome to business, Keefe, right? So you think that maybe I'd be like, ask for some help, reach out? Of course not. My ego just got bigger. I'm like, I'm just going to do what I say because this is the way it's going to go. And I did that for about 3 years and lost every single year. And it just compounded. I started hanging around people that complain too, and it's easy to find those people. They're everywhere. So when you're having a pity party, they're like, hey man, let's hop in it. So my circle was a bunch of losers, and that's what I became. And it wasn't my fault at the time, is the way I looked at it. It was my staff, it was the rates, it was the company, it was all these other people that did me wrong. But what's interesting, in 2010, I just got tired of losing, like just tired, like to the point I was just worn out. I'd cry on my way home when we'd get our monthly report. There's like a report card to see how it's going. And I was just getting murdered. And I was like, I got to do something. And I went to an event similar to one that I met you at, Jay. And that's where I met Kevin Milnarek, who was an ASA guy in the past. And I saw what was different. And what I realized is I need to do a lot more listening than talking. I need to do a lot more learning than barking out orders. And we were able to turn it around. We had a hell of a run from 2010 to 17, perennial top 1-2%. We killed it. But the definition of success tends to change as you kind of get older. And I would tell you, like, I was honed in. I wanted to make as much money as possible. I'm reading stuff from Steve Jobs. I want to make a dent in the universe. And my dent was like, how much money am I going to make? Like, go, go, go. And it was like, when is enough enough? Like, it just felt like it was never enough. It was almost like I was chasing a ghost. And, people talk about this work-life balance, which is impossible in my opinion. I kind of like to look at it as tension, work-life tension, because there's tension on each side, right? There's the work's pulling you one way, the family's pulling you the other way, and you can't go too far one way. I can't go all just at home all the time because the business is going to crumble. How am I going to provide? I'm going to take care of the kids. But on the other side, I can't just focus all on business because, hey, I'm going to come home to a super nice crib and ain't nobody there. What is it to get the whole world when you lose your family? Ouch, right? And near the end of kind of my run in Texas, 2017, that was a tough year for us because my oldest daughter, she was a senior in high school. So when you're a senior in high school, it's always your last everything, my last dance, my last this, right? Mm-hmm. And we just had our son. So when I would travel, ASA, speaking, I was all over the damn place. My wife was left home with a senior, a 11-year-old, and a newborn. And I remember calling one time and she was like, I can't do it. And she was let me tell you about Sarah, soldier. Never complained, always supported me, understood where we were. We, growing, when we first got together, we worked our tail off. We knew that's what it would take. But times change, things change, and priorities change. And at that time, I was like, man, I remember telling you I was going to sell that office. And you're one of a litany of people that'd be like, are you crazy? The one that's printing money, the one that you're getting a bonus every year from like $300 to $400 like the one that we talk about all the time, the one that runs and you ain't even got to be there. You can live 3,000 miles away. The one that prints money, that one. Are you sure you want to do that? Call my attorney. He's like, are you okay? You on drugs? I'm like, nah, bro. My accountant was like, I did the math. It don't work. But sometimes math ain't the answer. And I had to do what I had to do. And that was a stressful time. That was a stressful time for ASA. That's when the original partners, we broke up, things changed. It was like massive pressure all at once, And we know Tim Grover says pressure is a privilege. So I was like, man, I'll take it on. I got it. We'll do this. But then my eyes shifted off what was really important, the family. And man, it was 2017, 2000 to 2020 to this year was been hard for the family, been very difficult. It's hard to unwind things you've done for so long, habits, how you act, other things like that. And it put a strain on our family. Me and Sarah, we're separated for a while. We've been through therapy. Thank God we're back together now. But it was like the wake up call of a century of like, I don't want to be that cautionary tale because it sounds so cliche of like, oh, the guy that works all the time and now, he alienated his family and his kids. I don't want to be 80 years old with a big stack of money and my kids that don't talk to me. So it was one of those things that sometimes you got to go through the fire to really understand what's important. You got to get almost drugged through the coals, which if the fire is hot enough, like I would never want to go back through what I went through. But in order to be where I'm at, to see the perspective that I have, the proper priorities, in my opinion, which is being a great husband, being a great father first, but also at the same time, being a great leader to my people at the office, showing them what it means to lead as a servant first, to really care about people. People say, you can't love, it's weird to mix love with your people at work. Man, you gotta love your people. You gotta love your people, man. You have to. I mean, this is the thing that's just different. We spend so much time with these other people all the time. Like I gotta care about you as a human, right? So that comes back to that tension of like, I gotta be great at the family, but I still gotta be here. So it's like walking the line with this tension appropriately. But through all that, gosh, it's made me such a better leader. It's made me such a better husband. It's made me such a better father. And I'm proud of my ignorance in the past because I can see the gap of what I missed and how a shiny object can get me to distract me from what's really, really important. You know, Jim Collins said, good is the enemy of great, right? Like that's the thing. Like there's a lot of good options out there, but how do we decipher what's really great out of those good options? The good options are the things that kill us, right? Like that's good to do. That's good. That's permissible. That's good. But few things are great. And at the end of the day, when, you know, my time's up and the clock, you know, strikes 12 on my life, if my kids say I was a great father and my wife says I was a great husband, then that's the definition of success for me, which was not what I used to have before. Before it was, how big is my agency? How much money am I making? How many people know me? How many people applauded for me? Like that's how I used to define success. But now I feel like an old man saying this, right? It's like, I'm ready to be like, oh, get off my lawn, you know, like worry about your family. But it's so true, you know, and I just didn't listen when I was younger. I just didn't. So that's a little bit of my journey now. I mean, 2020, gosh, it's been rough for everybody. You know, it's been tough. It is. Everyone's got slapped around. Like, man, I feel like I've just been in a 12-round bout and I'm like, man, I still got it. What do you mean there's a couple more rounds to go? You know, so that book series is not how you start, it's how you finish. You know, I want to give a little bit back to 2020 the last couple of months. Like, all right, you just slapped me enough around. Let me get a turn, right? So really, it's adapt or die now, man. Like the world is different, the business is different. If you're sitting around complaining that it's not how it used to be, you too late. Adapt or die, and that's just business world. That's just life in general. You know, it always changes. But with technology and everything, forward is faster, right? Things that we used to say would be 3 years, that thing's 3 months. When we were younger, you know, Jay and Greg, they used to tell us, come up with a 10-year plan. Man, we don't even know what the world's going to look like in 10 years. We don't even know what it's going to look like in 10 months. You know, so this idea of the forward, the future is coming so much faster. It's about being able to adapt, being able to pivot, being able to be flexible, which for a control freak like me, trying to recover, okay, is massively difficult. But we're enjoying the journey on the way. So there's me, vulnerable, and I don't know how you always pull that out of me, Jay. But
so I tell you, as you were going through that, because you know the three amigos, as Chris put up in the comments there, very, very true, and we've had some heartfelt conversations, and I think all of us have shared some fractures with each other. I'm just thinking back to my first ASA event, and you know, when we were circled up in the hotel room, kind of talking about stuff, and like, what is this moisture coming from my eye? I don't understand that. So I really, really appreciate you being as vulnerable as you are. And I mean, right out of the gate, Keefe, because people do respect you greatly, and you make it okay for all of us, everybody that's listening and everybody that's watching. You make it okay for stuff not to be okay. You know, it's just, it is a part of it. And you know, sometimes I think, and I know you think this too, it's like some of your life before you even got to 2020 was like a dress rehearsal for the madness that we're in right now. I mean, 2020 shocked a lot of people, but for some of us, 2020 is like, oh, okay, so that's what the last 3 years were prepping me for. So you said something around leadership that I want to kind of uncork a little bit about loving your people. Because I know I was raised, especially everything I heard about leadership was very much, you know, you don't fraternize, you keep a distance, you know, those people don't need to know you that way because they won't. So what did that lesson, because obviously it had, you know, a business heel to it, but how did you come to that? I mean, when did the bell ring to make you kind of flip the switch on thinking about it that way?
Well, I've done a lot of studying. I was in John Maxwell's executive circle for a couple of years, who's a master in leadership. And it comes down to when I was used to run a business, I used to treat my employees, and I even hate to say this, but it's just honesty. I used to treat employees like pawns in my game to get what I wanted. Like, I'll move you here, you do this, you do this. Oh, you're not doing that well. Goodbye. And see, there's a same thing. Like, people call it tension. I call it balance, right? Like, you have to understand, like, everybody that you lead has goals, dreams, aspirations. They're just people, right? And leadership, if you're going to boil down leadership, it's influence, right? It's like, how do I influence somebody to do X or not do X? But people aren't influenced unless they know, like, and trust you. Trust is a huge thing. And you can't just get trust. You get trust through relationships, right? And it's really spending the time to understand your people, asking them the questions like, who are you? What are you about? Who is that really behind that mask, right? Like the person that shows up to the interview was like, man, that they send their representative, right?
Right.
And then they show up to work and you're like, whoa, that wasn't what happened there, right? But I know that all too well because I've worn the mask before too, because I had to be a certain person. If you see me on stage, I gotta be that person. And sometimes, and you said thanks for being vulnerable. This is just kind of what I've realized is what people are dying for is people to be authentic, just be real. Like, this is just who I am, take it or leave it. And you as a person who are trusting me to lead you the right way, which is a massive responsibility. I got to know you and I got to love you as a person in the sense of I want what's best for you. And sometimes what's best for you is not in my organization. Sometimes what's best for you is in a different seat on the bus. What is truly best for you of where you can thrive, where you can do really, really well? And a lot of leadership, what I used to do is I used to attack the person. You're lazy, you did this, instead of really speaking to the activity. And it comes down to, and I know you guys have done EOS before, and it comes down to our core values, like who are we really?
Right.
And one of those core values that we have is listen and respond. It's because we need to, as leaders, most importantly me, because I talk way more than I listen, so I need to be better at that. But that's really how I became better, is by listening, not by speaking. And if I really listen to my people of what they're really saying behind, whatever words they have, to just really listen to what's important to them, and they see you go to bat for them, they see you do things that are above and beyond. They see that, well, they actually really care about me. Like, I have a standing rule in my office. If you have something for your kids, a play, a game, you get to go 100% of the time. No exceptions. I don't care if we got a kickoff meeting. I don't care what we got going on. Go to your kids' game because I missed too many. And it's the little stuff. It is the little stuff that people know, okay, this person's real. And they're always testing you. They're always seeing, is he that really way? Or is he not? Is he really going to still, care for me as a human if I mess this up or this or that? So one of the things that I do every week is I teach a leadership class to my other managers, because it is so important that they understand the philosophy that I'm talking about of how we deal with our people. And it's not just pawns in our game to win. It's kind of like, it's what Zig Ziglar said. If you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want. And man, my greatest joy as a leader is to see people thrive, is to see people that didn't believe that could believe. So I'll give you an example. The last ASA event, I took one of my guys, and he ain't broke. He'd struggle hit over 20,000, and he wrote down a goal. I said, I want you guys to write down a goal that you think's a stretch, and you almost think's a little impossible. So you wrote down 40,000. I don't. That's a stretch for me. Today, 30 minutes before this call, he just broke 40,000. Wow. And I just talked to him a little bit, and I said, what was it? And he was like, I borrowed your belief when I didn't have it. I borrowed your belief. And I'm like, there it is. Sometimes people just need people to believe in them, to see those seeds of greatness that they just don't see because their mama told them they couldn't do it. Their daddy said they were too dumb. Their friends said, you ain't never going to make any money. But just to have somebody that actually saw what was possible and them doing it, because after that, he goes, man, I ain't stopping. I think I can get to 50,000. I mean, fantastic for the business, but the lesson behind it, like, he sends me texts randomly, like, dude, thank you so much. And I said, man, I'm just doing what I should do. And he said, dude, when I first came on, I didn't believe, and now I do. And gosh, that's impact, right? That's something that you can't manufacture. You can't fake that. You can't get that out of a book. That's just human to human, heart to heart. And in 2020, with all us being virtual, this is needed more than
Absolutely.
ever, like ever before. Like, so we do a community cause. I'm going to thank you, Jay, because you're the one that encouraged me. So every quarter we did one. So last month we did one at the United Way where we handed out food. People lined up in the cold to get warm meals. Okay. Whole staff there. When we saw each other in person, everyone was like, "Oh, you got legs, man. It's so good to see you." Like, man, I ain't seen you. Like, I know you got your mask on now, but man, it is just like, there was something about like that human touch, that human element, that when people always say technology will take over, so no way, never, because as humans, we need it. We need it to be whole. So it will never go away, that human touch, ever. And if we do that and we focus on our people, I'm going to tell you, all the results will follow. And the only reason I can say that, I can talk culture, I can talk servant leadership all I want, but if I don't have the results to back it up, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So people can talk culture, all this stuff, because when I first heard of culture was from Ed Bastian, the CEO of Delta, when I was with him, John Maxwell, and a group of about 40 people. And someone asked him, "How did you get Delta out of bankruptcy?" Okay, because you took over there in bankruptcy. What did you do? What was the strategy? And he said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." He said, "It wasn't what we did, it was who we were." And I didn't really get it at the time. I was like, "Cool line, bro. I don't really know what that means, but I guess I'll write it down. It seems poignant." But it's so true. Right. It's so true. And when I hear like the coolest thing that when I was in John Maxwell's group, I got to hear from people like Arthur Blank, who started Home Depot, who is the CEO of the Falcons. And they said, "How'd you do it?" Core values. Like it was weird. I was like, what? Like I studied finance. I understand marketing. I understand economics, and they go to core values. That's weird. I didn't learn that in business. But when we understand that our agency, our business, whatever business you're in, it's about your people, man. The better people you have, you will crush.
Do you think the Falcons have a core value of winning?
Oh boy. Here we go.
I knew you were going to go there. Yeah. Actually, they do. He just fired the coach and the GM because he was sick of losing. So I would say
yes. That is correct. Good. Thank you,
Keith. Just don't talk about the Super Bowl.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
Keith, with definition of success changes, which Greg and I completely agree with, and it could change every month. It could change every year. But with the transition of your life that you've had and the transformation of your life that you've had in the last 3 years of selling, a big business and then reinventing yourself and creating a business from scratch, and spending more time with the family. Today, in October of 2020, during a pandemic, what is your definition of success today? Like, what do you? I know you want to have a successful business and a successul family, but what does that exactly look like in your head when you wake up in the morning? Because I know you visualize it every single day. So what is that?
It would go to a lot of the core values that we have in our agency. So we have 5, and we label them all number 1. And I got that from Tim Grover, because you never want one to be more important than the other. So, Greg, you inspired one of them. It's fun. Like, I want to have, so success is we laugh. Every single day we laugh about something. Okay. We laugh because we do that in our office. We joke on Fridays. If anybody ever wants to hop on our meetings, we do Bad Joke Friday or Yo Mama Joke Friday. Like, we just go, like, for 10 minutes, we just tell as many bad jokes just because it's just fun. But the thing is, people say, well, why would you do that? It has a great business purpose. People do so much better when they feel good, like tremendously. Like, it's amazing. The other one that I told you about is listen and respond. And I'm committed to listening first. So this is huge for my family. For, as a male, I tend to be focused on solutions. So my wife could just talk to me and said, and I'm like, oh, I know the answer to this. Oh, I know the answer to this. But as my counselor told me, she don't always want to answer, bruh. Sometimes you just got to listen. And let me tell you the cool behind the scenes ninja trick. What my counselor told me, he said, it's a lot less brain power too, Keefe. You ain't got to figure anything out. You're figuring stuff out all day. All you got to be is like, for real? No way. She didn't do that. No way. Come on now. I can't believe that. For real? Like, that's all you got to say. And to really, that's the only response you need to really, and just be focused on what they're saying. So listen and respond, really listening to somebody. You know, as Covey said, seek to understand before being understood. Very, very true. Community centric, doing something in the community every quarter. That's huge, because we always want to, it's a great perspective, because I got to bring my 4-year-old, which you think they're 4, what can they know? And we're handing out food, right? And he goes, Dad, why are they coming here? I was like, so they can get food. He said, they don't have any at home. And he goes, and I said, no. And he said, well, let's give them as much as we can. All right. He said, and just at the end, the coolest thing. So we were giving out hot meals and these big boxes of MREs. I mean, these things were like 10 pounds. Everin, he's a little country beast. He would pick them up and he wanted to give them to the people. So he'd walk them to their car, hand it to them, and seeing that part of the community and really giving my kids that perspective, that's winning. Because my biggest fear of my kids is them being entitled, because the world don't owe you anything. But because I've done I've done really well, they can have anything that they want. But my fear is they're just going to expect that it should happen. So just getting that perspective for them, that's success for me. We also talk about community, fun, listen and respond, CANI, which is an acronym for a continuous and never-ending improvement. So success for me is, did I get better than I did yesterday? Am I better than, am I going to be better tomorrow than I am today? You know, what are all those things that I'm doing so I'm not staying stagnant? You know, because if you're not growing, you're dying. I really believe that. And then the last one, it actually used to be do the difficult. That's was one of our core values, meaning we embrace the things that are very difficult and hard, because we know the end result or what we receive from that is so much better. But we tweaked it to relentless, because that's doing the difficult every day in and day out, when you don't feel like it. So success to me is also every day doing something, man, I don't feel like doing. I don't feel like going to the gym today. I don't feel like running. I don't feel like swimming. I don't feel like having that conversation. But I do it because it's necessary, because it will get me everything that I want. So really living out our core values, I would say, is success. Do I do it every day? No, come on. We're fooling people if we do it every day, but we strive for it. We strive for that excellence. Something that you taught me a long time ago. I'll never forget. I got to tell you this. So we were going to put out a flyer or a brochure for ASA, and I kind of put something together. I was like, here it goes. And Jay was like, really? And I said something that I regret for a long time, because I said, come on, Jay, good enough is good enough. Bad thing to anybody out there listening, never say those words to Jay Atkins, you know, because Jay's always, why would you do good when you could do better? Why would you and you've helped me a lot to say, you know, if I put my name on it, it should be excellent. So thanks for that, Jay. And I won't never say that to you ever again. Okay.
I think a few of us have driven through that same pothole, quite frankly, Katie. So, you know, you were talking about that. So one of the things that just jumped out at me, and it's odd because I literally just had this conversation with my team this morning about being better today than you were yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting concept, because that means you have to, first of all, you have to be very clear on what you were yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So you just can't like roll over into the next day. So you have to
Mm-hmm.
know what was yesterday for me to be better today. And one of the things I was sharing with them, and I want to get your take on too, and it'll probably show up in my next team meeting, is because part of what I kind of sensed a couple of folks thinking or feeling was, okay, so if I'm always better tomorrow than I was today, won't I kind of end up kind of squeezing at the top? I mean, you know, like, okay, I'm better, but I don't know if I can keep getting that much better every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're sharing is
Mm-hmm.
and what I kind of had to say, and I wanted you to kind of speak to it as well, is that if you're thinking this and you're moving here, the problem is that you didn't move this.
Mm-hmm.
You kept moving toward it, but
Mm-hmm.
if you kept moving this, you'd still be okay. So
Mhm.
how do you, on a day-to-day basis, and how do you do it for you? Actually, I guess is the question I really want to ask, because it's one thing to encourage others. So how
Mhm.
does Keefe keep getting better day over day? I mean, what in your mind or what in your process allows you to accomplish that day over day?
Well, there's a couple things. One is, did I do something today that made me feel uncomfortable? Easy, and this idea of growth being finite is just the wrong way to look at it, right? You
Mhm.
don't know what you don't know.
Right.
My dad used to say, man, I wish I could go back to when I was 18 and know everything. And he was talking to me when I was in high school. I'm like, because I know everything, right? When I was 18,
Mhm.
I thought I knew everything. When I started my business at 27, I thought I knew everything. A couple of years ago, I thought I knew everything. You just never do. So always challenge yourself to put yourself in something uncomfortable. Now, one other thing that I still struggle with, but John Maxwell really encouraged me to do, we were in our group, and he said something about, he said how important it is to have reflection time, right? Like sit back and really reflect, like to the point that at the last week of every year, John Maxwell doesn't do anything but reflect on the last year and plan the next for the whole week, right? So I was a little young when I was in the group, and I raised my hand. And I said, John, sounds great, but man, I don't have time to sit around, look at some ducks with some Folgers coffee and just think about things. John, I got stuff to do, right? And John's so graceful. He was like, Keefe, I get it. You're an action taker. That's why you do so well. But let me ask you this question. If you're not doing the thinking for your business, who is? And I kindly sat down and was quiet for the rest of the meeting, basically, because there's something about, we can go, 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 go. But if we don't stop and have some reflection, like how was yesterday?
Mhm.
Did I just get up and just go and then go to bed exhausted and not actually say, what was yesterday about? What did I do well? What could I have done different? Can I really, in the morning times, that's when I kind of spend some quiet time. Jay's talked to me a lot about meditation. Thank you, sir. But it gives me some quiet time to say, what was yesterday? Who was I? Where did I miss the mark? Where could I be better today? And just being honest with yourself. See, the worst thing I believe that we can do is lie to ourselves. Because we know a lot of people that were like, how do you believe that? That's not true. But they've told themselves so many times that becomes their own reality. And when you start lying to yourself, then reality gets distorted and you become something you don't want to become. And the reason I know that is because I did it. I did it,
First-hand
because
experience. Yeah.
So Keith, I know something that's important to you, and that's legacy, especially with your son and your daughters, because you spend lots of time imparting your wisdom on them constantly and trying to help them get better. So all of the things that we're hearing today, I know you talk to your kids about. I see them in Facebook posts, but I'm going to ask you to get a little morbid with me for a second here.
Okay.
And that is,
you're gonna kill me off, Jay? Already? It's 2020, bro. You might as well just knock me off, dog.
well,
At some points, I'm like, go ahead and take me out, Lord. All right, if the rapture is coming, go ahead and take me. I'm ready.
So it's your last day here on planet Earth, and you're going to leave your kids 3 things that they need to live their life by and also teach others to live their life by, and that's going to be your legacy. What would those 3 things be?
God, Jay, it's a tough one. Number 1 would be love hard, and don't worry about reciprocation. Just love hard, like with everything that you got. Like, be tough, but also be kind. I think that's one of the things that a little bit is concerning, which is very obvious to how people speak to each other, especially in 2020. Everybody's tough behind a computer. Everybody's got to shout their point, but we can't be kind to each other. Like, you can still be kind. You can be tough when you need to be, but you can be kind. What's that?
It doesn't cost money. It's free.
It doesn't. And the last thing that I would say is trust your gut. That's what I would tell them. I'd say trust your gut. Because the times when there's certain things, and especially for my daughters, and I really believe that women have this weird discernment, like they just kind of know.
No doubt about it.
No, is weird. Like my wife, when I'm like, just trust your gut. like, if you're doing all the right things, trust your gut. Don't let people talk you out of things. You got to be willing to trust your gut. I guess there'd be a lot of things I would teach them. Take risk, you know, don't worry about failure. That, like, a big part of my issue in life was so much about fear of failure. Like, it wasn't so much about winning. It was about not being known as a failure. And that was so internal. It's been it still is an internal battle from time to time, you know, because we can all say we don't care what other people think. We care what other people think, you know, at some level, some more than others, but at some level we care, you know, what other people think. But gosh, I mean, it'd be a lot of heart to heart, but a lot of that is, you know, don't be scared. You know, I'd go back to the first one the most, man. Just love hard. Don't be worried. Don't be scared to love. Don't be scared to put yourself out there. It makes a difference because when you can love and be truly vulnerable with people, it gives them permission to do the same thing. And then that's life connection, man. That's the stuff. And that's the type of stuff when you're talking about being here. If I'm vulnerable with my people, telling about stuff that's tough for me or not working out for me, and it allows other people to do it, that's how we're building a strong culture. That's how we're getting more connection. And it's the opposite of what we're taught as men, right? It's like, you got to be a beast. You got to be a warrior. And there are times for that. Like, you know, I love, give me the spear. Let's go. Like, let's take the hill. Like, I love that. Right.
Right.
But it's between the two, you know, and that's been a word for me this year more than balance is like, we're pulled in so many directions. How do you deal with the tension that are pulling you one to the other? Because you get pulled one way too far, we all know we get just way off balance, way off kilter, and we become really not who we designed or who we really wanted to be.
So you said a couple of things that I'm loving, just for purely selfish reasons. I'm take an exit ramp for just a moment. That just how much fun it is for the three of us to just chop it up, because we've had so many that it's almost like this is like a window into so many conversations that we've had before that were like this. And so when you talk about authenticity, if anybody's wondering, this is exactly how these three heads talk every time we're in the same space. It is just all in. So, you know, when you're thinking about the legacy, the question that Jay just asked, and you mentioned about being tough, but be kind. It really tied back to what you were saying earlier, because if you love people hard, you can be tough and it doesn't break the relationship.
100%.
Very often we try to do tough first and then try to fix it, but we don't have any scaffolding to hold it up. So I really appreciate you saying that, because those things are all intertwined. So the question I want to ask you is, because one of the things that I've learned from you, and I know it was a journey for you, because you were talking about, being pulled in this direction versus that direction. I know that there have been times in your life when it wasn't simply just two things, it was four things. And you have perfected, or I should say are perfecting, because you're always evolving. You are perfecting the ability to say no.
Yep.
And I know that's a pretty big lift, because I know how much you value your relationships. I know how much you value friendships. But I know that was a thing that I just felt like it was a bridge that you crossed. And once you crossed it, you were like, nope, I own this.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people struggle on their road to success, or on any road, because they cannot say no when they need to say no. So what was it like for you what was that journey? Because I know you don't just jump to it. Sometimes we just find ourselves in the pit and we just have to say no. But what is the importance of that? What is it that you want people to know about the ability and having the wherewithal to actually just say, I can't, or no, or even sometimes not now is how it is. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, in the past, I was always, I got it. Anytime somebody has it, yes, like I'll just do it, right? Because if I really thought about it, I didn't want to let people down. I wanted to know that they could count on me, they could rely on me. I'm there for you. I got it. And I'll I'll tell you, my wife actually taught me this lesson. This was years ago. So this is when I was traveling. We were doing a lot of work for church, and me and the pastor had a really good relationship. I was doing some stuff with the youth, which I love to do stuff with the youth because I love just kids and teenagers because they still have that I can do anything personality. Like that. I love it. Like I hate when people steal people's dreams. Like when they're younger, you can be an astronaut, firefighter, whatever, right? So that's why I just always love, because they still had that, hope that anything is possible, and that was just usually the kids, that philosophy for kids. But the youth pastor was leaving, and then pastor asked me to take over. And my wife said, no, just say no. And I'm like, I got to talk to him about this. She was like, you always say yes. Think about this. She said, here's your problem. You always say yes, and then you can't go back. If you say no first all the time, you can always change your mind and say, okay, no, I thought about it. Yeah, I can do it. She said, you're painting yourself into a corner. Just say, you don't have to say no, but you say, give me some time to think about it. We could talk about anything. But when you're so quick to say yes, it doesn't give you a chance to evaluate your priorities. Does this fit into who I am right now? And getting spread too thin. I mean, that was the story of my life. The story of my life. Gosh, I would wake up and either be on the phone, text, talking to people from the moment I woke up to the second I put my head down. And that was a big issue of the issue in my marriage, is because Sarah would be like, you're here, but you ain't here. Like, you may be physically here, but where are you? So that idea that I would say yes just to appease people or make them think that, hey man, I'm a good guy. I can, I'm there for you all the time. But does it fit with who I am and my priorities and what's best for me? And can I even serve in that capacity at that level? Because the problem is when you're so spread so thin and you say yes to everything, you're not that really good at everything. Like I just wasn't as good as I could have been if I just had a few things that I poured everything into. So I'm actually doing a disservice by doing everything because I'd be half Keefe as opposed to being able to give everything I got to the few things that really matter to where I want to go now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is good. I need to learn that no thing. I definitely have an issue. That no thing for sure.
You didn't let me. You said no when I wanted to drive your car, bro. You remember that wasn't hard.
Yeah,
you're like,
talked about how you were going to drive it. That's where you messed up. You should have, shouldn't have been talking about how you were going to drive.
You don't get a car like that and drive in first gear, baby. Like you gotta let that sucker go.
I feel like you should take it to the track. I'm like, no, we shouldn't. That's not a good idea.
We should let it loose, baby. All right.
Made for the track. All right. So let me ask you, and I always preempt this question, and it's a new question that I ask, but I preempt it because a lot of people are like, I wouldn't change a thing, and I think that's BS because there's a lot of things I would change in my life, and I've had a decent amount of success myself, but there's a lot of things I would change with my first daughter, with with my mother, with my father. There's just different decisions I would have made. So what would be one of your biggest regrets?
I understand why some people say I wouldn't change anything. I get it because there's lessons that we learn out of all the failures, right?
Absolutely agree with you.
So, because there are the reason why sometimes I think why people say that is because the lessons that you learn through failure you can't learn any other way, right? Like there's certain things like me and my wife being separated for 3 months. I learned how much I really, really loved her, like deeply, like she's part of my soul. And I don't think I would have learned that unless that happened. I think some of the hardest times that we ever have teach us those things. But if I was going to say one thing that maybe I would have done differently, I probably want to open a new office right before the pandemic started at the beginning of this year. I think that's easy to say. I think that's an easy one. I was like, you know what? The timing on that might have been a little off.
Hey, so. It wasn't about the pandemic because no one could see that coming. I mean, who saw a pandemic?
Yeah, I know.
It was a world in March. you know,
Exactly.
oh, there's stuff going on. Like, it's not whatever. That's just news. And then, matter of fact, I went to Texas, and before we flew, I asked Greg. I was like, Greg, what do you think about all this mess going on right now? He's like, H1N1 bird flu. It's a thing. No big deal. We're sitting on a train, and I'm just like, it's no big deal. And then 2 weeks later, we have a train. So yeah, I mean, I guess you can never know those things in life. But
I would have changed that though. I'm gonna go ahead and say,
but you can still regret it, even if you couldn't predict it. I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm go ahead, and if you can give me a time machine, I'm gonna go ahead and pull that decision back a little bit. All right. So
why do you regret it?
Just because at the time when I did it, I was going to have to hire more. And what I learned through the pandemic, the learning curve is very difficult for newbies over virtual without that. Let me sit over your shoulder. There's some things, and you can you find out who's got discipline and who doesn't. And there's not a lot of people you working at home, you got to have discipline, and it's lacking with a lot of people.
Yeah. Well,
it's different when you're in the office because you're like, get on the phone, bro. Get on it. What are you doing? What's going on? You can't hide.
You wrap that homeschooling, people have kids, they have kids at school, and it's just, it's definitely a different world that we live in. But, I think it's just evolution, right? We've got to, we got to figure out a way to function in the world that we're living in right now. Even, coaching and teaching online, got to have shorter classes because people attention span are not like doing an event and being in front of them. And even their attention span is slow. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. I will tell you, and I just did a training right before this call, and for me, the pandemic, for me, and I know people have died from the pandemic, but for me personally, it's been a blessing because it's made me look at different opportunities. It's made me spend that time with my wife and kids that are so important. That I was gone every other week on an airplane and calling my wife at 9:15 because the plane landed late and saying, "Hey, can you keep Luna up because I want to put her to sleep tonight because I haven't seen her in 3 nights or 4 nights." So for me, it's been able to allow me to spend more time with my family, and I've seen good in it. And my business has definitely taken a hit because of employees. Right? It's harder to hire people. It's harder to train them, like you said. But I think it's made me better as a human being, and definitely a father and husband. So
I mean, there's things we can learn from anything. One of the things that I think we all learned is now I can have an employee in Alaska, Hawaii. It doesn't matter, right? Like I can find talent anywhere now, where before it was more what's closer to the office, how they can drive there. Man, you got a computer, you can go on Zoom. So the talent pool is opened up in terms of ability to bring people on. Plus, people are much more comfortable with technology. Just like you said, the thing that was kind of a blessing to me out of this whole craziness and just this whole situation, it actually gave me relief that, dude, no one could have saw this coming. Because I put so much pressure on myself for business because I'm such a control freak that everything depends. Like I put it all on my shoulders. I never say it's the manager's fault. At the end of the day, the buck stops with me. We do well, it's because of all you guys. We do poorly, it's because of me. So always there's a lot of I always pile pressure on myself. But after that happened, I was like, no one saw that one coming. Like I can't even, you can't even really say anything about it. Like it actually gave me a little bit of like, okay, kind of like when we had Gary John Bishop on, what you would say is the only certainty in life is uncertainty. And this made that so clear, is like, man, you can't control everything, especially people, Keefe. Like you've been trying to for so long and it's been such a big frustration. Let me give you further proof. Like, thanks, Lord. I get it.
You are dead on with that because I'm not sure that I have thought about it as a blessing. I have in some cases, but I think the word that comes to mind in addition to that is the lesson. And it's funny how we talk culturally about millennials, and they want everything to happen right now, and and that's part of their short attention span and all this other kind of stuff. And what we really have all discovered the last 8 months or so, and we'll be discovering probably for the foreseeable future, is that we all have a little millennial in us. because we all want to microwave ourselves out of this,
Oh
you
my
know.
gosh, yeah.
And because I'm tired, someone someone said, and it was striking, but it's like, yeah, the person said, "Well, I'm just tired of the virus." Well, the virus isn't tired of you,
No doubt.
and so it's a longer game is what it forces us to think about. Like, the Stockdale paradox said, from good to great, so
Oh my
are
gosh,
we
I was
gonna,
just reading that.
yes, are we going to be out of this by Christmas? Are we going to be out of it? And that's what a lot of people were doing is it going to be, because we needed to somehow, the human being in us needed to, because we don't know things without a finish line, but there is no finish line that anybody can see. And so what is forcing us to do is be more present in this moment. And how can I maximize this moment? And I do believe there's a blessing and a lesson out of that as well. That obviously not to discount the tragedy. I mean, my timeline, I told
Oh my
someone
gosh,
not
I
long
know.
ago that my timeline is filled. I mean, months ago it was 6 degrees of separation, then it was 3 degrees of separation. And now, this week, I'm looking at someone that's doing an announcement on their spouse's Facebook page to say that their spouse had died, from this. So it is a very real thing, but it has had the impact of focusing the mind differently for everybody.
Right.
Business opportunities, but also what Jay was talking, just being at home. Like, I'm it, my I have not in 27 years I've never gone this long without taking a flight. In 27 years. And because one of my wife's preconditions to marrying me was that I was going to travel. So that was one of the things we understood.
The opposite.
Yes. But in this moment, the things we talk about, the level, the depth that we speak to them about, even the way we talk to, Jay has done this. I know you've done it too. And I hope everybody does it, quite frankly, is to really have a real conversation with their teams around what this is. Because
Oh
if
yeah.
you ignore it, it's always there. So we
100%.
were talking to people today and our team had just, when are we going back? Are we going back next? And
Yeah.
they need to hear from us as leaders
Mhm.
that hell, I don't know. I don't know is a totally acceptable answer.
100%.
But I can tell you what we're going to do today. We're
Mhm.
going to do X, Y, and Z. So, yeah, it's been so. It's a regret that you couldn't anticipate and you couldn't forecast. But knowing you well enough to know that you probably sat on that for about 10, 15 minutes or so, and then went, "All
We
right,
gotta go.
enough of
We
that.
gotta go.
What are we doing? What are we doing?"
Well, I love that quote that you talked about because I think that's so perfect for this year. And I want to make sure I didn't misspeak earlier in terms of the virus, because you can talk about, like, people say 97%, 3%, whatever, every
Right.
percent, that's a person.
That's correct.
And I have family members and stuff like that. This is real stuff. But in that Stockdale paradox, for people that haven't read the book, Stockdale was a prisoner of war for 8 years, right? And when he was interviewed after they asked him that question, he asked them who didn't make it out. And his answer was always strange, because he said the optimist. And it's exactly what you said. We're going to be out by Christmas. Didn't happen. Was going to be out by Easter. Didn't happen. And he said they died of a broken heart. So that paradox of, you still keep the hope that it's going to work out. At some point, it's going to work out. But at the same time, you face the most brutal facts that are happening right now. And I think that for 2020, that's what we have to do. We have to keep the hope that we will prevail. It will work out. Who knows when? But we have to face the brutal facts of what we have to do to keep people safe. So and run a business and do all these different things at the same time. So man, that's like the perfect thing to talk about for 2020. And Good to Great. If you haven't read it, please read it.
It's a fantastic book.
Well, Keefe, I'm going to respect your time. I know it's family time coming up, and I want to ask you just a couple quick questions.
Sure.
I know you're a big guy of habits. So what's one habit that you do every single day that if people listening, if they did it, it would change your life, besides getting up early? Because I did apply that to my life. You did it for years, and it drove me crazy. Text at 5:30 in the morning.
I cannot believe this, by the way, because just everybody knows, Jay swore up and down he would never get up at 5. Never. So I tell him to do it, but if Robert Sharma tells him to get up at 5, then okay, I'm going to get up. Maybe I should have called Sharma.
I come down, eyes barely open, get a cup of coffee. He's like, yeah, just went for a 10-mile run. And I read 16 chapters this morning. I'm like, hey, you need to pipe down.
Yeah, you need to chill. You're just a little loud right now. You're a little loud, Keith.
You're making me feel real bad about myself. Tell me all this stuff.
You felt bad, Zero. Don't even tell. You did not feel bad at all. You're like, you do you, bro. I'm gonna go ahead and keep my robe on right now.
You guys would be like, yeah, let's meet down here at 7. I'm like, no.
It's that early. So I would say that, and it's one of the best things that we can do for our mental health is workout. Bottom line. If you don't want to do it, I don't care. It doesn't really matter. It is the best thing. You can read anything from any psychologist or anything, like the best thing you can do for your mental health is workout. So making that a part of what you do. And it doesn't have to be some crazy stuff that you can do. There's a lot of stuff you can do. You can walk, you can jog, you can run, you could swim, you could bike. You got me on the Peloton, Jay. Awesome. Like, you do that. I did that the first time for 20 minutes. I was like, why do I feel like I'm going to die? And it was for 20 minutes. So there's a lot of things you can do, but man, talk about clarity, talk about how you get into a position where you feel strength. And gosh, when you're a business owner, I know the first messages I get early in the morning are typically not good. Who's not showing up? Who did this? That phone is off. I'm going to work out. So I'm going to pray. I'm going to meditate so I can handle the barrage of stuff that is about to happen. Okay. Because ain't nothing worse than waking up late and the first text is like, this person's out and this person that, and they said they needed to talk to you and you didn't. I'm like, damn, good morning. Good morning. Hello.
All right. 3 most recommended books to read.
Okay. So we're going to go good to great, for sure. Since we've just been talking about it, I'm going to look here of some other ones that I would, recommend. Compound Effect for sure. And I'm going to go out on a different one. I'm going to go with The Go-Giver, Bob Burg.
That's a good one. And who are you following closely this year? Either, on podcasts, could be YouTube, Facebook, anybody that's inspiring you this year?
Gary John Bishop is really, since I met him, I've heard a lot of speakers and he just cuts through all the BS, man. Like, he is one of those things you listen to him and you're like, ouch, yes. Bro, like, really? Why are you all up in my business right now? The cool thing is I have this thing that one of my managers got me, which is he gives a quote every day, like for every day. And today you have a choice not to repeat the past.
Wow.
Interesting. So every day, like when you have those calendars, really cool stuff and a really good thought. And I just think he just speaks truth and from the heart. And it's not, we've all been to different events. We've all been to different stuff. I've done it, like people have alternative motives. They're trying to close you on something else. I never get that feeling from him, man. Like, he is truly like, this is what it is. Take it or leave it.
I saw a post yesterday and he was talking about masterminds and he was like, those are BS. I don't believe him. He's coaching and he can do masterminds. He's like, they're BS. And he actually just wrote another book. He just launched it. It's called Wise As You Know What. So I'm gonna pick that one up because his first 2 are great. And he just speaks truth. That's what I like. People are thick and they speak truth, much like you, my friend. Well, listen, at this point, this is when we go over the ingredients of Keefe Duterte's success. And Greg and I are actually writing a book on all these podcasts and all the takeaways that we've gotten on different people's success. Because obviously success is different for everybody, right? Your success and my success and what you want, what I want are going to be different. And I think every single human on earth wants something different. And I think, success cannot be judged. It's all with your heart, with your soul. So your story, your success, your ingredients is you might not have massive talent, but nobody can ever outwork you.
Mm.
Don't hang out with people that complain. The definition of success always changes. Work-life tension is what really exists versus work-life balance, but just embrace it. Choose wisely. You have to love your people, the people that work for you, the people that work with you. Adapt or die in business and in life. Don't lead with your ego. Earn trust. Live by core values, but most important, set them. Borrow belief if you don't have it. Have fun. These are your definitions of success. Have fun, listen and respond, community centric, constant, never ending improvement, and be relentless for whatever you want in life. Did you do something that made you uncomfortable today? One habit that will change your life if you do it every single day consistently, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it, work out. What you want to leave with your kids. I wrote down 4. I usually ask for 3, but you said a 4th one. So love hard with no expectations. Be tough, but be kind. Trust your gut and always take risks. And the most gifted and recommended books, Good to Great, Compound Effect, and Go Giver. And who do you follow closely right now is Gary John Bishop. And those, my friends, are the ingredients for success for my good friend Keefe. And I'm so thankful that you got on here with us today, man. Thank your wife for allowing us to have some of your family time. Tell her I said hello.
I will.
Very happy for you that
Thank you.
you're at a great place in your life, even during a pandemic.
Me too, brother. Me too.
Really, really appreciate your friendship and everything that you've taught me, and trusting me to go in business with you, man. That meant a lot. There's a lot of moments that we've had, and walking around blocks during certain moments in our history.
For real, no doubt.
Conversations that we've had. It's been a great journey, man. It's just getting started. I'm sure we'll be friends forever and a very long time, man. We have a great history, and I just appreciate you getting on here and sharing with everyone listening to the things that I've got to learn from you. So
thanks, Jay.
So I got to tell you, there's 3 words that Keefe gave me when we first started our journey. And he didn't say them, but I want to make sure that they are part of it. And he said, shoot the ball. And that was so simple and so profound. Just shoot the ball. So thank you for that, Keefe, because there's some times where I've caught myself dribbling around the perimeter, wide open, but shoot the ball. And that's what you do. And that's what you live into every single day. And it is one of the reasons that I respect you and we respect you so much. So thank you for that gift. And swish, Keefe.
There it is.
Swish.
Well, thanks a lot, fellas. I'm excited about your book. Just remember, 10% to the house.
There you go. Shoot the ball.
Shoot the ball, baby. It's been a pleasure.